What if a change in global trade policy could add thousands of dollars to the cost of your future home? That's not a theory, it's happening right now. From imported building materials to rising mortgage rates, the 2025 housing market is facing major financial pressure, and most homebuyers have no idea what's coming. In this episode of Profit Powerhouse, we're breaking down the real impact of new tariffs, how they're driving up costs, and what smart investors and everyday buyers can do to stay ahead. If you're planning to build, buy, or just care about your money, this is your warning and your guide. Let's start with the big picture. In 2024 alone, over $24 billion worth of building materials were used for new residential construction in the US, and $14 billion of that came from other countries. That means nearly 60% of what builds your average American home could be influenced by foreign trade decisions. The National Association of Home Builders recently revealed some eye-opening details about where those materials come from and what's now happening to their prices. China, for instance, is a key supplier of everything from light fixtures and hand tools to home appliances. Canada provides a massive amount of lumber and aluminum materials at the core of every construction project. And Mexico, it's known for gypsum, the mineral used to make drywall and sheetrock. So, when the US government raised tariffs on Chinese materials to 125%, it sent shockwaves through the housing industry. Builders who rely on these imports suddenly saw their costs jump, and they're left with a tough decision: absorb the cost or pass it on to buyers. The truth is, most will pass it on. And the price hike? About $9,000 per home on average. Depending on what materials are used and where they come from, that number can swing between $7,500 and $10,000. That's on top of already inflated housing prices, higher interest rates, and supply chain bottlenecks. But the situation is even more complex. You see, the housing market doesn't just rely on lumber and nails. It also depends on mortgage-backed securities bundles, home loans that investors buy and sell to support the mortgage system. And roughly 15% of those are owned by foreign countries, including China. So if trade tensions escalate further, one of the biggest risks is that China could retaliate not with tariffs but by selling off US debt. That move could destabilize the bond market and drive up the 10-year Treasury yield, which mortgage rates closely follow. The result: mortgage rates could easily shoot past 7%, putting even more strain on both buyers and builders. Right now, we're in the middle of the spring buying season, and the bond market is extremely sensitive. Just a small bump in yields could be the difference between a beer getting pre-approved or being priced out. But let's look at another piece of the puzzle: domestic lumber production. In a bid to reduce reliance on imports, President Trump recently signed an executive order pushing for a 25% increase in timber harvesting on federal lands. Industry insiders say this could help in the long term, especially if it means reviving dormant sawmills and creating more local jobs. That's a win-win. More supply means lower prices, and more jobs means stronger local economies. But, of course, these results take time. In the short term, though, American consumers are still facing rising costs, and many are asking the right questions. Should I wait to buy a house? Are tariffs helping or hurting us? Where should I invest if the market's this unstable? Let's break it down with a few financial truths that apply no matter where you stand. 1. Build your emergency fund first. Before you think about investing or making big purchases, make sure you've got 6 to 12 months of living expenses saved. This fund isn't about earning a return, it's about protection. If rising rates, inflation, or job instability affect you, this fund keeps you afloat without panic selling your investments or racking up high-interest debt. 2. Pay down high-interest debt, especially now. If you've got credit cards or other debts charging 15% or more, that's money leaking from your financial system every month. Tariffs and inflation already make your dollar weaker, don't let interest pile on. The key isn't timing the market, it's time in the market. The best part, 401ks automate everything. You don't have to feel ready to invest, it happens with every paycheck. When markets are shaky, automation removes emotion from the process. Just last Friday, for example, millions of Americans were paid and 10% of their earnings went directly into retirement accounts. That's the kind of quiet consistency that builds wealth, even when the headlines scream uncertainty. What about real estate? Even if material costs are higher now, they could stabilize if the US succeeds in boosting domestic production. And if interest rates do rise, we may see a slight cooling in home prices to balance things out. Let's wrap it up. So here's the bottom line. The latest tariffs on building materials are pushing home prices even higher, and the bond market's reaction could send mortgage rates up too. But smart financial decisions like building your savings, paying down debt, and remember, financial security isn't about reacting to news, it's about planning ahead. If this video helped you make sense of what's going on in the housing market and how to prepare your finances, go ahead and click that like button and subscribe to Profit Powerhouse. We've got more real-world insights and no BS breakdowns coming your way every week. Stay smart and stay profitable.